A very warm welcome to ORF Middle East, to a very special afternoon where finally ORF Middle East, which started its journey a few months ago, courtesy, I must confess, the very exuberant support of Ambassador Sunjay Sudhir, has been able to host him. We've been hosting many conversations, but today we have the main man, in some sense, speaking to us on what many of us in the geopolitical space and watchers of what's happening around the world agree as a breakout relationship, as a relationship that is setting new standards of trade, security, technology, innovation, and of course, most importantly, the people to people linkages that are underpinning much of this. But before I move to the conversation, let me introduce Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir, a very special diplomat, has been in charge of this very important partnership for India for the last 3 years and 6 months, 3.5 years, a little more than 3.5 years. Before that, he was in Maldives. He has in fact done stints in Damascus and Cairo, so he understands the region. He has been at the WTO in Geneva, so he understands some trade as well. And of course, he has spent a long time in the energy sector, both at the Ministry of Petroleum in Delhi as the Joint Secretary in charge of international cooperation, but also he is the editor of an energy journal that he continues till this date. So he is an energy person, and the city has its own energy, but this Emirates also has energy. So in some sense, in the right place. But Ambassador Sanjay Sudhir, of course, also been a pillar of support for ORF. Under his leadership, we inaugurated Raisina Middle East earlier this year, and we had His Highness Sheikh Abdullah and our Foreign Minister Dr. Jaishankar inaugurate that particular edition. And we, of course, hosted and launched and finally have housed our research facilities at this venue where you are joining us today. So, so without further ado, let me first, Ambassador, thank you for everything and welcome you to ORF Middle East.
Thank you very much.
So, a very long welcome, but we'll have a nifty conversation and then move it to those who joined us to ask you questions as well. My first question to you. This 10 years of this partnership have been dramatically magnificent in some sense, surprising as well in many ways. In the last 4 years, you have steered it, in many ways, shepherded the relationship in your own way. What for you is driving this remarkable transformation of the bilaterals? Who have been the key actors shaping this? And what for you are the 2 or 3 big ideas that could surprise us in the future in terms of the direction we take as part?
Samir, first of all, I must say that ORF, the logo which we see here, is really a very welcome addition to the think tank space in this country. And I think you've added so much value that last time when you had the inaugural session in Abu Dhabi, both Sheikh Abdullah and Dr. Jaishankar were there for the inauguration. And the kind of sessions you keep holding here add so much value to a relationship, in particular the India-UAE relationship, where there's so much happening and so much needs to be told. So as far as your question is concerned, Samir, I'll take the liberty to quote from the last Raisina dialogue in Delhi in March this year, when Dr. Jaishankar, our foreign minister, was asked the question that which of the relationship does he think has transformed the most in the last 10 years? And without batting an eyelid, he said, India-UAE is certainly one of them. Because this relationship is based on very rock-solid trust between our leadership, their vision. And I think the results, the concrete results are for everyone to see. India is rising, UAE is rising, and together the conviction is that we can both rise together very well. So historically, we've done well, but this relationship is as much about history as it is about the future. And this relationship, I think, is very unique. And just to elaborate on that point, the largest number of immigrants to this country historically have been from India. In the 50s and 60s, the Indian rupee was actually the legal tender here. Mm-hmm. So the RBI had issued a special note, the Gulf rupee, which had 1-to-1 parity with the Indian rupee, which was legal tender here. If you look at trade, everybody knows about trade in pearls and For the Emiratis, perhaps the most visited country was India. And if you just fast forward all these things to today and just correspond them, so largest number of immigrants, today also the largest number of Indian nationals anywhere in the world is in the UAE, 4.4 million Indians in this country. Not just that, just to share some trivia with you, every day about 50 Indians are born here.
50 Indians.
50. Six to seven Indians also die, also pass away. And every day, the Indian embassy in Abu Dhabi and the consulate in Dubai issue over 1,200 fresh passports. So, that's the magnitude of the Indian population here in a sense. Indians, everyone knows, the skyscrapers.
So there is a European-sized India living in Dubai. A European country size, like 4-5 million. That's like a European country, right?
Yeah, depends on the country, but yes, it's a sizable population. So you're talking about Dubai. So Indians are definitely behind all the skyscrapers you see. But now what has changed is that more and more Indians are reaching the top floors of these skyscrapers. Something which by default was occupied by the Europeans or the Americans. You see more and more Indians there. And I'm told that about 60% of all CFOs in this country are actually from India. If it was pearl trade earlier, now it's trade under SEPA. If it is about Indian rupee being the legal tender at that time, now it is the local currency trade settlement mechanism, which is a very unique mechanism under which we settle our trade in rupees and dirhams. If it was about India being the largest visited country by the Emiratis, today 5.5 million Indians actually visited the UAE last year in 2024. That's a huge number. So UAE is today the largest visited destination for Indians. On another front, India has very close relations with the GCC, as you all know. But the first comprehensive strategic partnership agreement was signed with this country in 2017, when His Highness Sheikh Mohammed bin Zayed was in India as chief guest on a Republic Day. And if you look at the number of visits, Prime Minister has already visited the UAE 7 times, 4 times in the last 3 years. MBZ has visited India 4 times. But now it's going beyond in a very special way, because in the last 1 year, since September last year, the Crown Prince of Abu Dhabi, Sheikh Khalid, has visited India. The Crown Prince of Dubai, Sheikh Hamdan, has visited India in April this year. And these were not ceremonial visits, they were concrete visits. So for instance, in Sheikh Khalid's visit in September, we broke into new territory. We launched the work on the virtual trade corridor for IMEC. We ventured into critical minerals, nuclear space. When Sheikh Hamdan visited India, defense engagement took off. The announcement on setting up IIM Ahmedabad campus in Dubai, that happened. So much happened in these visits. This is about the visits. And so now the relationship is, again, venturing into several new areas. Now we are actually investing in our next generations. For instance, setting up of the IIT Delhi campus in Abu Dhabi. That campus was set up in January. They started work in January last year. So within a short space of about a year, we have the BTech program, the MTech program. January this year, the PhD program also started. And Abu Dhabi Inc. takes pride in hosting IIT Delhi campus. So just a week before the visit of Sheikh Khalid to India, he himself visited and inaugurated the campus. We are setting up the IIM Ahmedabad campus in Abu Dhabi, in Dubai, because it makes more sense to have. And here again, when we are sending across our premium brands, we have to be very conscious about what we are doing. And the kind of reception we get here is huge. So for the Abu Dhabi campus, IIT Delhi, it has now actually fully entrenched itself in the innovation ecosystem of Abu Dhabi. So it has these MOUs with MBZ University of AI, with Khalifa University, Zayed University, Sorbonne University, and doing a lot of work. And actually, this relationship, this innovation part has actually taken off. For IIM Ahmedabad, The campus, I think, will get ready maybe by the end of this month. Admission process has already started. And by mid-September, the first MBA course will start. So I was just talking to the director of IIM Ahmedabad, who was here a few weeks back, and generally asking him, "Kya ho raha hai? About how's the admission process going on?" To my pleasant surprise, he said that the similar one-year MBA program which they run in Ahmedabad gets a GMAT score of about 720 out of 800. Here, there are applicants with 760 also. So I mean, so that speaks of how important this campus is regarded here. Last but not the least, the Babs Temple, the Babs Hindu Temple in Abu Dhabi. I mean, it's not that the Babs Hindu Mandir is the first Hindu temple. There have been Hindu temples before that. There have been gurdwaras, churches of all kinds. But this is something which is emblematic of the ethos of India, the ethos of the UAE. The graciousness, the generosity of the Abu Dhabi government by giving land, by providing facilitation. So much so that Prime Minister himself inaugurated the temple in February last year. So on all these things are actually happening here.
No, but you said something to me very interesting when we were just having a brief conversation about implementation being the differentiator between other relationships where you make big claims. And I think it would be useful for us to hear, in terms of, how is it that both of us in many ways, and I'm going to ask you this very specific question, why is it that both of us have been breaking our head negotiating with the EU for an FTA in our own ways for multiple years, but when both of us meet bilaterally, we agree to a CEPA in 88 days. Right?
88 days, yeah.
88 days. How does this happen? Or why does this happen?
Simple. Answer is very simple. If the leadership is convinced कि करना है, they have to do it. It has to be done. So there is no ideological baggage here. And it's a very pragmatic approach. It's a very win-win kind of an approach. So when we did the CEPA, for instance, UAE actually broke ranks with the GCC, Customs Union, to sign a bilateral CEPA. And I think that was a very bold step. But then after our CEPA, they have signed 25 more CEPAs. Right? So there's no ideological baggage. There is clear conviction in the leadership. There's clear direction to us, as bureaucrats, as the governments. So in February 2022, the day the CEPA was signed, in the presence of both the leaders, actually it was Omicron time, so it was signed virtually.
Correct.
Right. The day the CEPA was signed, another big thing happened, which was the launch of a vision statement. So the vision statement was something to actually guide the, our systems on both sides about what is it in the mind of the leaders. Say IIT Delhi was one of them. So many other things, nuclear area, and so many other things, health, etc. was in them. So it's all articulated in this vision document. And when I go to Delhi,
and in many ways, that vision document is being followed assiduously.
Absolutely. So I told you about the Prime Minister's visit and MBC's visit. Dr. Jaishankar has stated on the floor of Parliament that the most visited country is the UAE, visited country. So the number of times he's in touch with the foreign minister here on WhatsApp or on telephone calls, we are not counting that. So for, I think, our commerce minister as well, Mr. Piyush Goyal, I'm very sure this is the most visited country. So when that is the kind of commitment on both sides, things actually happen, and that really gives us a lot of joy that things are happening, and success breeds success. So if you start off with this idea about setting up IIT Delhi, you actually see that brick and mortar IIT Delhi, and if you get time, next time you visit Abu Dhabi, you must visit the campus. That campus looks like resembles IIT Delhi in Hauskas.
It actually resembles.
Yeah. So the most iconic thing in IIT Delhi in Hauskas is that.
By the way, the ambassador is from IIT, so I'm just telling you that's why IIT is important in this conversation. Go ahead.
So the most iconic thing is the roof of the convocation hall, which is based on some hyperbolic paraboloid equation. A similar roof has been created here just to create that thing that
vibe, same vibe.
Yes, that's IIT Delhi.
So, Ambassador, here you have just explained to us that opportunity and how both sides have grabbed it and are now building on it. This is the moment of geopolitical churn in the region. In many ways, the region is going through its next round of shake-ups and reconciliations and perhaps a new beginning in the days ahead. How can the two of us and our journey together, the economic story we have carved together, how can that reorient this region towards the geo-economic opportunities that await us rather than lingering and mulling over the political differences? Is there a story here to be told to others as well? And are we doing that?
Well, I think there is definitely a story to be told because what we are doing is that we are staying focused. What you said about the churn is very true. It's in the headlines every day. It's in discussion rooms and all the time. But we are just staying focused at the opportunities. So it's the CEPA which I was talking about. Last year, last financial year, we actually crossed that magical 100 billion mark. Uh, Today, there are only 3 countries with which we are doing 100 plus. UAE is one of them. Last year, our trade actually increased 19% year on year, and in the last year, it has increased. Last 3 years, about 16%, which is phenomenal,
Huge.
which is huge. On another side, investment side, we signed the bilateral investment treaty last year. Investments have been going well, no doubt. But to further give it impetus, we signed BIT last year. But our accumulated investments from the UAE to India are about $23 billion. Last year was a record. It was about $4.5 billion. And when I say $4.5 billion, it's the direct investment coming from UAE to India. We are not counting the investment coming via
UAE.
platforms, the UAE platforms based in the US and other parts of the world. So that's a huge thing. I mentioned about the local currency trade settlement mechanism. The point there is that do we really need to use third country currencies when our bilateral trade is so huge? We also need to assert the importance of our own currencies. And we started this mechanism about 1.5 years back. And now we're trying to refine this mechanism to make it more user friendly, to make it more beneficial. It also helps the traders in saving a lot of money, which was otherwise going to different parts of the world.
10% of all our trade is now in local currencies.
Yes, we are reaching about 10%.
About
now.
10%.
Yes, which is a huge number. And side by side, if you look at another very new dimension, is the fintech space. Mm-hmm. So when you know that our RuPay card stack, which is a very robust stack, time-tested stack over the last 12 years. When the UAE also wanted to develop its own debit and credit card stack, and we were in discussions, we generally said that, why do you need to reinvent the wheel? We have this tried and tested thing. Why don't you just have a look at it? And they were so impressed by that stack that they didn't take much time to say yes. So their J1 card is actually based entirely on the RuPay card stack. Mm. But then again, that's not the end of it. We are also working on connecting our messaging systems. Mm. Because for partners, trade partners doing such huge trade, our banks have to be linked. And as we speak, the trials are...
So this is the alternate to the SWIFT and other systems which are currently connecting the financial messaging networks.
No, absolutely. So these are systems connecting our central banks and our other banks, commercial banks, whereby they'll be able to transfer money by their own messaging systems. We are also, connecting our CBDCs. We are working on that.
The digital currencies.
Yeah. UPI has been a very transformational thing in India. Today, as we speak, about 50 to 60% of the POS machines will be able to use UPI. But we are trying to make it universal in the UAE so that when these 5.5 million tourists come here or somebody working here wants to remit money back home seamlessly and very cheaply, we should be able to do that. So we are working on connecting our instant payment platform with ANI. And I think if all goes well, by November or December this year, we should be able to do that.
Now, a full saturation of UPI. Across all POS.
Absolutely. So that means then you don't need to see the POS whether it accepts UPI or not. It should be able to, because once they develop their own instant payment platform, ANI, which is say valid universally in the UAE, for us to connect does not take time.
Correct.
So these things are happening.
As I'm going to now move to 2 areas that you mentioned in your opening remarks. One is defense, and I really want to understand what is happening in the defense sector partnership, not only just the dialogue and the exchange of information and views, but also on what we are doing in the hardware sector, what are we doing in terms of forces and alignment of operational capabilities. And the second is, again, something you mentioned at the beginning of your talk, nuclear energy. And, both of them important. Let me first start with defense.
Defense certainly is an area of top priority. And with the visit of Sheikh Hamdan in April and his meeting with our Raksha Mantri, it's really taken off. What we have done is that the institutional mechanism which we have, we call it the Joint Defense Committee, that has been elevated now to the secretary level, which is the highest level in our government. And of course, his counterpart on the UAE side. Next meeting is scheduled for the end of this month. We have also have a lot of these joint exercises. In Army, we have Desert Cyclone. In Navy, we have Gulf Waves. In Air Force, we have Desert Flag. So in the last Desert Flag exercise, just 2-3 months back, we participated with about 8 fighters, and with other countries like UK, France, Germany, Korea, and our contingent was actually the biggest. We have been participating in Dubai Air Show. Last year we had a huge contingent of Tejas and Sarang. We've been participating in IDEX, NAVDEX. They've been participating in our DEF Expo and other things. So that all is gradually scaling up. But your specific point about hardware, private sector of course has a big role to play in these things, and the way private sector is growing in defense in India is very impressive. So what we have done is that we have also started this Defense Business Partnership Forum. Last year we had the first such event, where about 25 Indian big companies, right from some public sector companies to our big companies like Tata's and Bharat Forge and all, and the startups, the whole spectrum. And that visit was very successful. They had good meetings with entities like Edge and Tawazun on the UAE side. It was so successful that when we have the Joint Defense Council meeting in Delhi, alongside that we'll have the second edition, a follow-up edition. And as we speak, a lot of hardware is actually getting integrated. So some high-tech hardware being developed here, for example, by Al Tariq, is getting integrated with Tejas. Yeah, within the BDL and the HAL frameworks. So these things are happening. We are working on drone and anti-drone systems. Zen Technologies is doing a lot of work. So those things are happening, and I think after Operation Sindoor, the effectiveness of our hardware and software, I think, is a much more proven thing now. So things are easier that way.
What's the potential? What's the opportunity? How can we look at some of our common partnerships in Europe, in America, to really make nuclear a sustainable and viable energy future for all of us?
So as I mentioned during the visit of Sheikh Khalid to India in September last year, one of the MOUs we signed was on nuclear. If you look at this part of the world, GCC, UAE is the only country which actually has nuclear energy. And today, 25% of total energy here is generated from nuclear, about 5.6 gigawatts, which they plan to double by 2030. And the MOU which we have signed actually brings in our Department of Atomic Energy, our NPCIL, to work with the ENEC, the Emirates Nuclear Energy Corporation. And that work has already started on spares, on servicing and other things. We are also trying to connect our nuclear industry on both sides. Looking ahead, whether it is SMRs or other areas, they look quite promising, because we also are aware about the PACE initiative between the US and the UAE. Perhaps if we have to do something three-way between US, India and the UAE, it could be a very good possibility. So if you go back to His Highness President Sheikh Mohammed's visit to the US last September, UAE was recognized as a major defense partner.
Correct.
In this part of the world, the in fact, the only other major defense partner is India. So we also see synergies there. We see synergies with France, in fact, in defense. So another thing is we have a lot of common platforms. So there is a lot of three-way collaboration which can actually happen.
Both with the US and with France.
Among other countries, of course.
Other countries. Staying on technology, and I'm looking at nuclear SMRs as a technology for the future. We are all today obsessed and engaged with AI. UAE is investing a lot on building its own capabilities and capacities. Is there an opportunity there for us in India, especially who's going to be probably the largest consumer of AI or the feedstock for AI, whichever way you look at it? We could be the feeder as well as the beneficiary of AI. Is there conversations happening around AI?
Oh, yes. So last January, when Sheikh Mohammed was the chief guest at Vibrant Gujarat, one of the MOUs we signed was on advanced technology, supercomputers, data centers, developing LLMs and other things. So those conversations are happening as we speak, and hopefully they should reach somewhere. But we do recognize the AI prowess of this country very much.
Excellent. Look, I'm going to come to you. I'm going to open it up. So please do feel free to pose your questions to Ambassador Sudhir.
This question is more for you, Samir.
Oh.
So, in the context of what you've been saying, one of the areas which is common between the UAE and India, or has a lot of promises, technology as a whole. In coining a word, geotechnography, which is a pair. I think in that sense, what do you see yourself between the two countries? Where is our next level of common ground?
Thank you for asking me, but today it's about Ambassador Sudhir.
I want both of you to comment on
that. In fact, I'm going to direct that question to you, Ambassador, because I actually had a question that I wanted to ask you. If we were to look 5 years into the future or 10 years into the future, which are the 2-3 exciting domains that today may not be as discussed, but could be the breakout or frontier sectors of collaboration between the two countries? I'm not evading the question. I will come back to you, but let me ask Ambassador this question.
So I think one would be the nuclear space.
A breakout sector.
Yeah, sure, for sure. Second would be advanced technology. And I must acknowledge that Mr. P.K. Gulati is doing great work.
Look, he's the original driver of this relationship.
Absolutely, especially in events like GITEX. Because these are platforms which actually bring technology promoters on both sides together. And here there's so much happening in the startup space. So if you go to, say, DIFC, there you have to see to believe what kind of enabling ecosystem there is for Indian startups to prosper. So in the nuclear space is one thing, advanced technology is another. Critical minerals is the third one.
Critical
minerals, because the way UAE is investing in critical mineral assets across the world. One of the entities, the IRH, International Resource Holding, is investing hugely in Africa, Latin America, in Australia. And as a growing economy, as a huge economy, our requirement of critical minerals is large. So perhaps UAE could become a part of that supply chain, which can assure us reliable supply.
So the material security imperative for the future.
Absolutely. So these three are definitely areas. Space could be another area. And we have started working on space as well, because while for India, our space sector has grown very organically since we got independent, UAE has been actually leapfrogging. They've already sent 2 astronauts in space, and they've made huge progress. So sometime back, the first nano satellite of the UAE was actually launched by India. But I think there's so much of untapped potential in the space sector, which we are now trying to appreciate, especially because there's so much of private sector which has got into space in India. So we are now working with InSpace, for instance, and see how they can work with the UAE space agencies. But Polar is another area.
Yeah, by the way, I was surprised in the Arctic Circle dialogue we hosted. Actually, they announced their polar initiative in which one of the key features was a partnership with India.
Absolutely. So we have our historical strengths in the polar space, but UAE also has so much interest in that we not only signed an MOU just a few months back, but I mean that's the beauty of the relationship. The thing doesn't end with signing MOUs; it just moves ahead. So on the polar space, in the next Antarctica expedition, there will be 2 scientists from the UAE. So we see, these are new areas, but then these are happening areas.
Excellent.
Hello. Thank you for this. Why is nuclear so important? Is it because of the rise of AI and the energy required, or is there some more scientific collaboration going on? And how will the UAE help partner India, or India help partner in the energy exchange?
Well, nuclear is important because we all want clean energy. We want clean energy, cheap energy, sustainable energy. So that's a great source, not only for India, also for the UAE. And actually, if you look at IMEC, another very ambitious project, and IMEC is not just about sending containers. It's also about sending across clean energy, sending across data. So while on the one hand, we are working on sending containers through a virtual trade corridor, we are also working on connecting our grids. In fact, we are very close to starting a feasibility study on a subsea cable through which we could transmit clean energy as well as data. So it is important in that sense.
Okay, thank you.
I think the second part of the question was on the R&D cooperation, right? And how are we partnering on the technology development process around these, the SMRs or the future? Are we really looking at all of those? So answer is yes. I think SMRs and modular reactors are necessarily an ingredient of what we are.
So if you look at President Trump's visit to the UAE just a couple of months back, one of the major announcements was investment in Holtec plant in Michigan. And there are so many other initiatives within the US working on SMRs. We also need nuclear energy. And India, by virtue of its size and the energy requirement, could actually make all these things very viable.
Thank you. Talking about the growing strategic partnership between the UAE and India and the fields of cooperation that you mentioned, how do you see the I2U2 initiative enhancing multilateral cooperation?
Well, of course, it's a great initiative. Again, I'll talk about India and the UAE because what the churning which Samir mentioned in the beginning, that might pose challenges to maintaining the momentum with which I2U2 started. But on the India-UAE front, we spoke about food parks, setting up food parks. And again, as we speak, we are looking at setting up food parks by the UAE in Gujarat. We are working on that. We are also working on renewables, setting up something like actually 60 gigawatts of renewable power in Gujarat and in Rajasthan. So these 2 things we are working on very actively.
So I think that's the interesting space, but I think we have to watch this space for more.
Yeah.
To answer your question, this is something that is evolving and obviously dynamic. But I think the logic of the partnership is very sound, and I think the opportunity to make value out of it is something that needs all actors to work in concert, and it's something that should not be left to chance. It has to be intentional act.
I have 2 questions. The first one is, as private investors, when we invest in India and the revenues are high, can we take out the money in dollars or not?
The clear answer is yes.
Sure? Because I have so many people telling me yes, telling me no, so I
that's
got confused.
That's not true.
Yeah?
It's absolutely not true.
Okay, great. What about data centers, Your Excellency?
Well, if you have the investment, the doors are open. We need data centers.
Okay. So can you provide lands?
So these are arrangements, these are commercial arrangements. So it's not that the government will provide you land to begin with. It's always good to enter into partnerships.
PPP. Can we do something like that, maybe?
You can arrange, you can enter into commercial partnerships with the Indian business persons
Okay.
and set up data centers. But definitely there's a lot of need for data centers.
Someone else? I think we can take maybe another couple of questions. Okay, I'm going to come to 3 questions. We'll come to 3 questions here. Let's start with you.
Your Excellency, my question, with bilateral relations between India and UAE at their peak, how do you see India leveraging and benefiting from the other 25 odd CEPAs UAE has signed with other countries? Do you think India can really benefit from them? Thank you.
So there are 2 parts of the
There are
question.
2 parts.
First part, I don't agree that our relationship with the peak.
It's starting.
It's yeah, absolutely. We don't know where the peak is. On the other part, definitely, this web of CEPAs which the UAE has signed could be a great advantage to India. If you look at the countries which they have signed, it's geographically dispersed from Colombia to Cambodia to Indonesia, Australia, New Zealand. If you look at the size of the economies, major economies like Indonesia, Turkey, Australia, and also important economies like Israel. What we can do is that to make UAE as a production base or to make that substantial value addition which qualifies for CEPA exports to the other country. And that could add value not only to India but also to the UAE. And my conviction is that UAE provides some major advantages for manufacture, particularly say if there is something which is very energy intensive, UAE is the place. The kind of stable legal environment which businesses require, the predictability is exceptional. Also, if I look at it from an employment perspective, if there are 100 jobs generated, I'm sure a large chunk of jobs will come to Indians. So it helps us in so many ways.
2 parts to my question as well. One, since we just said this is just the start of a relationship, what does good look like in 5 years from now when it comes to the UAE-India relationship? And the second, how do we replicate the success that India has had with UAE to build relationships with other countries? Are there 1, 2, 3 things that come to mind?
Do you sometimes your colleagues call up and ask you what are the 2-3 things we should do to get the same formula? I think that's the question.
We set up something called the Bharat Mart as a part of Dubai, this Jabal Ali DP World. And that concept was that we create a platform here, and for thousands of Indian exporters who cannot directly reach, say, Africa or Europe or Central Asia, might as well have some kind of a platform here because Jabal Ali is connected logistically and otherwise, customs. So it makes life easy. And the actual importers actually come to Dubai, come to Jabal Ali, come to Dubai on a cash and carry basis, see the stuff is in the warehouses, place the order and ship it. It makes life so much easier. So when we announced it last February during Prime Minister's visit, I got so many calls from so many colleagues, across the world. Can we do a Bharat Mart in Tanzania, in New York, in so many. So, yes, UAE always, our relationship here always generates a lot of ideas for so many other countries to sort of follow up on and see how we can replicate those things. And we are very encouraged by this because the trust there is and the performance there is in this relationship actually gives us the confidence to take these new initiatives. So when we had to set up the first overseas campus of IT, it was here. The first campus of IIMs, it was here. We will, in fact, NPCIL, so this National Payments Corporation of India, NPCI, is doing so much work globally and working on this UPI here. So when they are planning to set up their first overseas office, obviously Dubai is the first choice. So it's very easy to start things from here and then take it on from here. So yes, that way I think the UAE has been very good for us. Another small thing I'll mention to you is that we are trying to work on something. I mean, of course, the idea is still being developed to have some kind of a Bharat-Africa Setu. Setu is a bridge. So a bridge between India and Africa. So Africa is a very diverse market and is a huge continent, 50 countries. So for Indian exporters to reach Africa, physically is not very difficult. But to reach the shop floor is quite challenging because these things have to be marketed well, payments have to be ensured because to get payments out of Africa is sometimes a challenge. So working again with DP World, we're trying to see how we can connect the extensive distribution network of DP World in Africa, their knowledge about retail in Africa, and see how our own MSME exporter can benefit out of this. So, I mean, this is a great, place to do all these experiments, and generally they do well.
No, but we'll start with you first. Then
Well, first of
we'll
all-
come to my colleague at the very end. He'll have the last word.
Well, thank you both for such an informative conversation. My questions to you, Ambassador. So far in our conversation, we've explored areas that have been very natural and easy to work in between the two countries. My question is, what are some areas that have been difficult to work in or where results have not been achieved for whatever reason or another?
Can I give a nil answer?
Not applicable. You can say not applicable.
Not applicable because there is no area. I mean, when Samir asked the question, what are these new areas? So whichever area we try to embark on, we generally get good success. I mean,
No, but I think his question is that were there wrinkles that diplomats need to, iron out in some sense? Are there some tough geographical areas or domains or issues where we have struggled to find consensus? Or do you think we have been able to have free conversations across all issues? I'll be very happy to learn if there is none.
yeah, actually there's none. So whenever things start, they start with an idea, of course. So I mean, when I talk about the local currency trade settlement mechanism, it just started with an idea. During this high-level task force on investment meeting, which is co-chaired by Sheikh Hamid on the UAE side and Mr. Piyush Goyal on the Indian side, in a casual conference, I mean, we were just chatting. I was chatting with Mr. Piyush Goyal in the car, driving from Dubai to Abu Dhabi, that why don't we do this? And he said, yes, we must do this. It makes so much sense. And all. So we started that conversation in that meeting, and it actually took off. So most of these things start just in the conversation space at that ideas level, and then we plant the seed. And since there is so much trust and commitment on both sides, governments are so supportive on both sides, things actually happen. Similarly for UPI, the messaging system and other things. There were just conversations. It so happened that Governor RBI was in Dubai, and then he also visited Abu Dhabi for something, some event. And I just suggested to him that since he's in Abu Dhabi, how about a meeting with the central bank governor? So we arranged a meeting, and again that conversation gave rise to so many things which we are today reaping in the fintech space. So I think I must say that the UAE has been very, very receptive to new ideas, and I think so has the Indian side been. So things are going well.
Ambassador, my question is that last year in January, UAE joined BRICS Plus. So how do you think UAE being a member of the BRICS Plus is going to help it leverage its current trade relations compared to its Gulf peers? Thank you.
I think this is a question for the UAE. We are happy. We are happy that UAE has joined BRICS because that makes BRICS more diverse. And then UAE has been an engine of economic growth in this part of the world. So to have countries like the UAE join BRICS gives it a lot of new dynamism, new energy, new ideas. So we are very happy to have UAE in the BRICS.
And we have the final question from the gentleman, my colleague.
Thank you, Your Excellency, and Dr. Saran. So the question that I had was with regards to the Gulf Cooperation Council as a regional institution. How instrumental has it been until now in terms of developing the India-UAE relationship? And do you foresee its weight being larger moving towards the future?
So GCC involves all the 6 countries, so it might not be proper for me to comment on GCC. But what I can say is that we have had some, difficulty in negotiating with the GCC in terms of an FTA, for instance. We have been negotiating with GCC for a very long time, 10, 15 years. But then there comes a time when one has to take a call on doing things. So the trade, the figures which I shared with you, one of the key reasons for that accelerated growth in bilateral trade is the CEPA. If we had waited for India to sign an agreement, an FTA with GCC, we might not have been able to reap the benefits. But today we have been able to do that. But let me then extrapolate from here. Now that we have a working model between India and the UAE, to then extrapolate it across GCC is much easier. So as we speak, we are very close to signing an FTA with Oman. We have started discussions with a few other countries of the GCC. And if that goes well, the whole GCC gets covered.
So my question is basically, or two questions again. It's connected to the questions that everyone here asked. Who controls Mauritius, Your Excellency? And then I'll ask you why I'm asking you this question. Who really controls Mauritius? Is it India? Is it China? Is it the UK? Who controls it?
You should ask the Mauritius government.
The thing is, I tried my best.
Let me try to capture the essence of what we heard from the ambassador today, who, by the way, please join me in applauding his wonderful contributions. Thank you for your service to the bilateral relationship, and of course, thank you for your support and leadership, sir. But I think what essentially the ambassador has conveyed to us today is that this is the relationship that is beginning to take off. It is exploring new frontiers, new sectors, new domains, new opportunities. There is a degree of coherence between the leadership on both sides that is in many ways rare in a world that is so differentiated. And in some ways, I always tell people that Dubai is and Abu Dhabi, these two cities, Dubai and Abu Dhabi, are going to be instrumental for the Indian journey to 10 trillion. And on the other hand, in the next decade, as we take this journey from 4 trillion to 10 trillion, the single largest beneficiaries of India's transition, economic transition, is going to be these two cities and many others in the Emirates. So in many ways, we are joined at the hips. Our journeys are now coterminous in some ways. Every person I meet who has a story from the 60s or 70s or 80s in this part of the world has an India in it. Let me assure you, every Indian you will meet in the 2040s will have a Dubai and Abu Dhabi in it. So I think we will in many ways be infecting each other's stories across time, from the past to the future. And I think that's the destiny that our ambassador was reinforcing, serving, strengthening. And thank you very much for doing that. I want to, Ambassador, embarrass you slightly. I want to take this opportunity to present to you a shawl as a mark of respect for what you have done for the relationship, what you have done for ORF, and of course what you have done for India over your career. You are obviously going to be here till September, but you are very busy with all these projects and ideas, and I wanted to use this opportunity to thank you formally from ORF Middle East for making sure that we are here. In some ways, you were mentioning about ideas that become reality. ORF was also one of those, that it was a conversation we had a couple of years ago, that maybe it's time to build a research institution out of this center, because in many ways, Dubai happens to be India's most important city. I always say this. It is India's most important city for the future. And therefore, we have, as a research institution, obligation and a responsibility to be here. So let me present a shawl to you, Ambassador, as a thank you.
No, but Samir, I'm surely embarrassed. No, I just happen to be at the front end, at the visible end. But I'm not alone. It's the whole India.
Thank you so much.
Thanks. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.